the way you're experiencing this and learning and going through the process be very unique to you.
Yeah, it really is a unique path that I took to get here. It's interesting because I had the opportunity to go into MMA back in 2006 out of college, and I chose to go the entertainment route. So I think it's cool to explore which way would have been better. I would have more experience there, but I wouldn't have the name to go with it. So, and you really need both to really capitalize on this.
Are you having fun, like learning all these skills? It's such a complex game. So it's so many, sub-martial arts, then all combined into free fighting. Are you enjoying the process?
I am enjoying it. It definitely can be overwhelming at times because it is so much, and it's something that's not going to happen overnight, and it's something that takes dedication, consistency, and a lot of work. But it really is cool to learn these different arts and to try to apply them in a way that's unique to what I do. And I think that's the fun part about it is like, okay, this is how you do this, but now how do I do it?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's an individual thing. It's like an art form, and every artist expresses themselves slightly differently. Where are you sort of moving towards? What are you enjoying the most, or what do you like doing as you train and spar and fight?
I definitely enjoy kickboxing, even though it's really the roughest one on me to train, because like a little bit of space here or too close there and your jammed up ankle, or it hurts. Learning to kickbox properly really hurts. But I'm a wrestler. I wrestled since I was 5 years old, so jiu-jitsu has been just a natural learning curve for me that I really enjoy and love. And it's funny, I think I told you the other day that there's so many holds that are wrestling moves that I wasn't doing properly when I was a wrestler. And now that I'm really focusing on the actual technique and the jiu-jitsu side of it and not just trying to wrestle with it, it's been a whole new world.
Yeah.
A whole new world.
Got a good voice.
No, said no one.
Said no one, except for this guy.
Thank you.
It's an interesting thing because you're big and powerful, right? So a big wrestler takes the head and tries to pull it off. But then when you apply the technique, the technique that was developed over the years and over generations, it's easier. The game becomes easier.
Yeah. I mean, I think you see a lot of evolution in professional sports, and especially in fighting. You look at jiu-jitsu 10 years ago, and we're not doing what they were doing 10 years ago. And then 10 years before that, they're not doing that. And so it's a constant learning curve, and you really have to, want to get better. And, no matter where you're at, I think there's always something that you can learn and improve on and do something if you want to and push yourself.
Are people asking you about Bobby Lashley yet? Is that coming up?
The first fight, everybody was asking me about Bobby, about Dave Bautista, about Brock, and about Punk, which is natural. And I always took the stance, I'm here to prove that I'm a fighter, that I belong here. And they would say that, well, that could be a big money fight. Well, I think it'd be better for me to fight someone with a fighting background at first. And maybe down the line, in a couple years, there's that fight. But for me, I really want to focus on, guys who started with pro fighting and then cross over.
Tell me about the audience. How's the audience responded to you? The audience that watched you perform in the WWE, and then now the audience watching mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I think that was one of the coolest things about the fight, and one of the most humbling things is seeing the WWE universe, the pro wrestling universe, come out and stand up for me. It's a big community, but it's also kind of a small place, and they're very passionate, much like MMA fans. And once they consider you in, they got your back. So it was so cool to see them come out and stand up for me. The MMA fans have been, for the most part, great. They're going to call it as they see it, and I think they really like the comeback story. Like, hey, this guy crossed over and he's trying to do something and he's starting from scratch. I would say 80% positive, 20% are going to say how they really feel, which is fine. We're here on camera trying to entertain them. If you're not entertained, that's okay. It's your buck. But for the most part, I'm a likable guy.
Yeah.
It's hard not to like me.
It's true. It's true. And just from watching you for a couple of days, I think you've got the most natural connection to it. One, the way you fought in your first fight, you're a fighter. But also the way you've approached this. It's acknowledging this is where I come from, this is what I did, but also I'm a rookie. You called yourself a rookie at the press conference. Have these guys all accepted you very quickly because you feel like you fit right in?
Well, that's good. I met so many fighters through this, and they have been very appreciative and very cool to me, and no one has been like, you don't belong here, get out.
It's harder to do with a heavyweight.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think it really shows the level of professionalism with the Bellator fighters, that they definitely have a respect for anybody who goes there in the cage and earns it, and I hope to continue to earn that.
In that first fight, as you, which I really enjoyed, I thought you had a great performance, and as you're coming in to put him against the fence, you took a couple shots.
Yeah.
Do you remember those? Do you remember
Absolutely.
that first feeling when you, oh shit, I'm being hit by a heavyweight?
Yeah, it was very fast, and that was the first thing that I remember. I was like, whoa, that was fast. Like, those hands are faster than they were in practice. And the small gloves are definitely hard. And I remember just reacting and going into him and I remember being happy that I had him up against the cage. And I remember thinking, oh, he caught me there type deal. Next thing I remember, I was like, I had the body lock. I was like, come on, come on. I was actually saying that to myself, and I actually slipped off a little bit, but the ankle pick presented itself for me. So it was kind of like a weight off my shoulders.
Now he's down.
Now he's down, and that's when I said, slow down. Don't lose your position. Hold, work. Amateur wrestling, we have stalling calls, and it's really important that you're always trying to improve position. Well, it's a little bit different here. You have to improve your position, but at the same time, you have a little bit more leeway, and that's the main thing. Slow down and think where you're at, and then go through your progressions. Don't be in guard and try to jump towards the head. You got to fight with the ankles, the knees, and then the hips. Walk up the body like you should. And if you try to skip any of those, chances are he's going to get out from on bottom.
The difference of what you're saying right now to if I take 20 guys talking about their first fight, that slow down, 19 of them don't say that. They don't. That's where you should know that you belong doing this, because that's rare in fight number 1. Fight 3, 4, people start to be able to relax and hear their corner and go through that very thought process you're talking about. Most guys don't have that experience in their first fight.
Well, thank you. I've had the fortunate ability to work with some of the best coaches in the world, and not just in fighting, but in football, in wrestling.
Performance coaches too.
Yeah, so I've been at the Division I level at the University of Oklahoma with some of the best in the world, and so allowing myself to be coached and allowing myself to say, hey, this is what I need to work on, has truly been a benefit for me. Like, I don't get caught up on my ego. If I do something wrong, I'm like, okay, you're right. Let's fix it. Let's do it 100 times now. And it's just kind of who I am, because growing up, I loved wrestling, but I was never the fastest. I was never the strongest. I was never the most athletic. So I had to learn the technique and to do things the right way. And luckily, I grew up in Perry, Oklahoma, the wrestling capital of the world, and I had that chance to do that.
We were talking earlier, and when I watched that fight, you progressed, like you said, to the body and worked, you controlled the hips, diagonally controlled his body. Then you attacked an Americana, Kimura, a straight armbar.
Yeah.
But you just told me you're a white belt. You're really in the realm of jiu-jitsu. You still are a white belt, right?
Now that I've done jiu-jitsu, it's definitely going to be a journey for me, and I'm not going to be happy until I am a black belt. And I may be further along than that, but right now it is important, but it's not the main priority to get the color on the belt. My coaches want me to be pretty well-rounded when it comes to that, and they're not the type of guys that are just going to hand out a belt just because I got a sub-victory. And so they want me to learn all aspects of it and really progress like any other jiu-jitsu player or any other fighter, which I think is a very good thing. They're not just going to push me out there and say, hey, look who we have. Like, they don't really care who I am or what my background is or how it could help them. They really care about me getting better, which is very rare and very special.
We were through your process, as we've talked about Brock and Bobby Lashley and CM Punk. He didn't seem to do it. He wasn't a lifelong athlete like you. He was a performer who kind of liked fighting and came to it, but he didn't do super well. How did that affect your path, do you think, or the way people see your path?
Well, it definitely affected it. I don't know if it was good or bad. It definitely not overshadowed, but it definitely hung over, when I made my announcement to cross over, and the comparisons were immediately drawn, even though we were two completely different guys. A lot of people, want to compare pro wrestlers to CM Punk and he's gonna go down in history as one of the best pro wrestlers. His popularity is that high. But when it comes to professional MMA, there's just some people that should be in there and some people that need to really work and maybe not be in there so much. And I'm not saying he's one of those guys, but it was one of those things where I just had to prepare myself. Like, I'm gonna get asked this a lot and people are immediately gonna think negatively about me, but if you think about it, it's almost a benefit for me, because then they're almost going to underestimate me. And if you want to underestimate me, please underestimate me.